Welcome to This Team is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. She is Lauren Brownlow. I am Demetri and Lauren, what is killing me today is we have the worst timing on recording episodes because literally the night that we recorded, or the night after the day that we recorded, news breaks that Dave Tepper would like $680 million from the city of Charlotte to renovate Bank of America Stadium.
It's cute. It's cute, Dave. I mean, it's precious, isn't it? Like,
I mean, he's going to get it, right? He's absolutely going to get the money.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think because here's the thing, right? And we've seen this over the years, especially as some of these kind of expose type pieces have come out over the last decade or so about how lopsided that deal actually is in favor of the billionaires. And here's the other part of this, right? I don't know that now would be the best time to start this. I'm just saying.
So I'm going to take everybody behind the scenes at OG Triangle Media for a second here. We were kicking around the idea of putting together a trip to go to Germany with the Panthers versus Giants game. And when our travel agent partner sort of told us what the minimum number of people to go to be able to do this would be, Joe Ovius and I looked at each other and were like, wrong year. Just not going to happen this year. I don't think we can get that many people excited about traveling with the Carolina Panthers. You're right. It probably is the wrong year to try and build on some enthusiasm. I also think the design of the stadium makes it less valuable to the city because they are not putting a dome or even a roof on the stadium, which means you're not going to get the Final Four. You're not going to get, the Super Bowl, the college football national championship game, none of those major events. And I think this is probably more in line with the way new stadiums are being built, but you are talking about taking out seats, and you're talking about taking out seats to enhance the experience and what is there for people that are not all in as sports fans, and that's fine. But I do think that the things that would have made this or would have the things in this that would have made Charlotte a destination for big events are gone.
Right. And that's, I mean, to me, that's the biggest piece, right? Why would you spend that much money on upgrading a stadium for a shitty owner, at least as of now?
Yeah.
Right. That you're not even going to do the things that would get the big events there or even get them into the rotation to be considered. I'm not saying that just because you build it, they will come necessarily, but at the same time, especially a dome. I mean, that's a crucial element. I mean, it rains. Sorry. Yeah. It does. It rains around here. I mean,
and look, there are different ways to do that now, right? Nashville is going to have a retractable roof on their stadium.
Right. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Have you seen what Jacksonville is doing? It's very strange. They're basically putting a glass roof over the top of the place so that you still have the feeling of being outside, but a glass ceiling over the Jaguars is a nice metaphor. But there are all kinds of ways it does not have to look like the Superdome anymore, right? It doesn't have to be that outdated. One thing that is really interesting about this is Tepper is asking for $680 million for a 20-year commitment to stay, but he could get out of it after 15. And here's my question to you, Lauren Brownlow.
So we get to sit through all the bullshit?
Yeah.
Nah,
okay.
I'm good.
But here's my question. Do you think the Panthers are really going to leave? Because I don't. Because I don't know that you could find a place that would be right to take an NFL team and a soccer team.
Well, what's the reason that? Right. I mean, because that's the thing, right? Is that Roger Goodell has always kind of one of the reasons that the European cities are in the rotation as much. And I guess, they want to get other cities on the map as well. It's let's make this something where those are always a threat for the owners. He works for the owners, remember? So now this is a constant threat the owners can use of, hey, well, we know the American cities might have run out of interest for an NFL team, but what about?
Yeah, I mean, think about the places that have been mentioned, right? London, I mean, Charlotte FC is going to be moot there, right? Toronto already has an MLS stadium. Mexico City, same problem you're facing as in London. I think there are American cities that would want a team, but again, I don't think Dave Tepper. Look, if Stan Kroenke moving the Rams to LA was easy, imagine if he wanted to move the Nuggets, that would have meant that the Avalanche has to go, the MLS team has to go, and probably the lacrosse team he owns has to go, right? Like these things come as a package for a reason. And it's not easy to pick up and relocate a whole package like that.
I mean, would Tepper that just sell the MLS team or fold it though? Probably. I mean, you know, to be fair, but like my counter then to, okay, well, he would just give up the MLS team. Fine. But then who would and somebody would if they're desperate enough for an NFL team, but like, who would really want, like, how do you sell David Tepper to your, like right now?
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's a good
is it going to get much better in 15 years?
Right. No, that's a good point. I mean, we had the Panthers before we had David Tepper. Do you know, do he and Nicole have kids?
I don't know. Not sure.
I don't either. Like,
because I would always, honestly, I would feel kind of badly bringing them into this without like them already being a part of it. You know what I mean?
Me too. I mean, I guess even if they had kids now, like we know that there was no news in the last couple of years that they had a new kid. So it's not like they would have to worry about uprooting anybody, right? So he uprooted, left Pittsburgh for Charlotte. Why wouldn't we think he would do the same if the Panthers were to move again? And I wonder if the thing that would make him palatable for a new market, for a market getting football for the very first time, or NFL football for the very first time, would be some sort of understanding that the next Tepper is not worse or is a much more reasonable human being. But honestly, I don't know if there is a next Tepper.
Right. And then there's the whole part of it, though. Let's not forget this. First of all, one of the reasons people treat NFL fans like they're dumb is because, well, I guess they are. Because
fair.
They'll continually swallow bullshit, like obvious BS, just in, you know. So, I mean, I could see a world where, and if you add in like the fact of regional superiority into the mix, could I see a scenario where people from like, you know, another part of our country who happen to think they're better than the South would think like, oh, well, of course he couldn't make it work down there with those people, but here it worked just fine. Like, could I see that being sold? Yeah, I could. Like, that is sometimes more powerful than like actual logic and reason. But I mean, again, like Tepper would have to do a lot of things a lot differently quickly in order to get that. So I mean, to me, that's why if I'm the city of Charlotte, like, here's the thing, your leverage in this negotiation has never been higher.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one who should want to have to do all this.
I agree. Ideally, he should be the one paying privately. I think the new Jaguars stadium is majority private funded. You know,
so he's got to give some stuff up. Like, look at the practice facility too. Like the way that went down.
Right.
What goodwill has he earned with absolutely anyone? Like, you should not be like willing to just sit down and like take him in good faith. Like, you should be taking him to the cleaners right now. I'm not saying they can't contribute anything. Obviously, they're going to have to. I think we understand that. Like,
I mean, I think that's probably a reason we are talking about. And look, the Panthers said they like the uptown location. It means a lot to them. I think it has way more to do with the city is absolutely a non-starter on believing Dave Tepper is going to build something new and see it through.
What, the city doesn't think that he will?
Yeah, like the city would not even begin this conversation if Dave Tepper was not already tied to something. And renovating Bank of America means he has this gigantic piece of real estate that is already ready to go if the city does nothing or if they come to a head where they can't move it any further.
Right. Yeah.
They aren't stuck with a giant pit the way Rock Hill is.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's true. I'm just saying, like, at this point, it's also like, you know what? Like, what have you done to make how do you want us to sell this to people exactly?
Right.
Like, why don't you tell us? Why don't you tell us, bro? Please tell us what we're supposed to say to people to be like, yes, we'll use all your taxpayer money to fund this idiot buffoon billionaire guy that has like set your team on fire and give him more money to make some improvements to the stadium, but not enough to where Charlotte could get big events. Like, someone needs to make it make sense.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think that any stadium in an area that is not that does not have natural advantages to hosting the Super Bowl, like a Miami, should absolutely be thinking at the very least retractable roof at this point. I do wonder if part of selling this is going to depend on this season. Like if fans can buy into Dave Canales and Bryce Young with a guy that is, ready to manage Bryce Young, if it really is a new era for the Carolina Panthers.
I mean, maybe that would certainly help. Like, at least you need to see things going in like any sort of remotely positive.
We need to see a third win.
I mean, like, but that's the thing, right? Is like this team has just been not giving you, like, even Panthers teams of the past that were not good or were very difficult to watch. And Lord knows I've sat through some doozies. Okay. But even those, there were like reasons to feel good moving forward, whether it was like a coach that you knew was just having a bad year, injury, whatever it was. Like there was always some reason, or like they would give you some flash of something where you're like, okay, yeah. Unless quarterback was a problem, which, that's hard to get optimistic around. But, I mean, I'm just saying, like, for the most part, there was always something. And like, there have been fewer and fewer reasons as his tenure has gone on. Like,
right.
He
is becoming so desperate to get things right on the field that rather than trust the people that know how to get things right on the field, things have become overly meddlesome to the point that people are losing faith, losing hope, all that kind of stuff. Totally understand. Let's pivot real quick, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead real quick before we pivot.
I was just going to say, how do we know he won't do the same in the renovation process? He doesn't have a degree in architecture, but, he's seen some videos.
Yeah.
He'll just try his hand at some.
That's right. Why can't we be the first team with a fountain at the 50-yard line?
Well, don't say it like that. Don't tip me with a good time. I'm just saying.
On the practice field with minicamp underway, a lot of reports out there about the way the team is looking. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Bryce Young at minicamp because, look, everything sounds positive, but that's kind of what minicamp is for, right? Like the veteran receivers say it is clear he is making reads and moving through reads faster. That's really good, although I don't know if that was ever really the problem last year.
I mean, I guess, like, I don't know how much time he had to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think
to make progressions.
The problem was not going through progressions or making the reads. The problem was how quickly he had to get rid of the ball.
I mean, you heard some people talk a little bit about how his processing speed needed to get a little bit, quicker. But that's, I mean, to me, that's kind of a normal part of acclimation to the league.
Sure.
And it becomes even harder to get used to such things when you're constantly under duress.
When you are under duress and you have a coach not letting the offensive coordinator call the plays. Now he is, now he's not. Now the coach is fired, et cetera, et cetera.
A mess, right.
Yeah, Bryce Young told ESPN that Dave Canales is a, quote, calming presence for him. That is good. We'll get into this more a little bit later. It does sort of play into my overall concern about Canales, the quarterback coach, versus Canales, the head coach. But I think that there is reason that you need a guy to baby Bryce at least through minicamp. Once we get to the off, or excuse me, once we get to training camp, fine. Don't baby him. But right now, build him up.
Well, I was going to say, how I feel about this anyway. Like because so many Panthers head coaches in the past, so not just in the Tepper regime, like, you keep going. We'll just quit, or so quick to just throw a quarterback under the bus, back up the truck, run over him again and again and again. And it's like, that's, I mean, a guy like Cam Newton will just take it and not complain, but I mean, most people who are human beings would see such things and go either, well, why should I want to play hard for this guy who's an asshole, or they wouldn't want to come there in the first place, like to just see somebody get thrown under the bus like that. I've never been cool with it. I don't think by the way, I don't think a quarterback should do that with a coach either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's good leadership either way you slice it, to just like blame it on one guy, because football is way more complicated than that. And I think we know that. And so and you have to take the bullets for your quarterback if you're the head coach. And so it's refreshing to see the mindset shift. I think that that's a good thing overall, because I mean, look, it's the most important guy on your team, whether he's good or he sucks. Like he just is.
I mean, to your point, the throwing under the bus, whether it is the coach doing it to the quarterback or the quarterback doing it to the coach, it should only come at like the most desperate time. Like we have tried everything else to reach the guy and it's just not happening. But you're right. Like it has become such a casual thing for the Panthers that, yeah, I mean, look, a reset on Bryce to a certain extent is understandable. One reset that I don't love, although like you do have to think about what he went through last year and even his last year at Alabama. Bryce Young told ESPN that he has to, quote unquote, get used to how explosive Xavier Legette is, which, look, awesome. I think one of the things he has to get used to is if he has no time, there might be someone open now. But man, want more for yourself, pal.
I winced a little when I read that quote, partially because like I was like, well, that's a comment that people who are harping on his arm all the time will immediately seize on and go like, oh, see, he can't throw far enough to get to, or whatever. I was like, but I mean, yeah, it's not the worst problem to have. And, this is a Xavier. God, why do I keep doing this? Legette?
Yeah, Legette.
Thank God. Okay, Legette. This is easy, Lauren. Just remember it. Legette. Thank you. This is a Xavier Legette fan podcast, apologist podcast.
Yes, 100%.
I'm excited anytime he gets in the mix to see. I need to see like whatever. I need his first celebration to be like a little country.
I think, yeah, I want his first celebration. They should just hand him a microphone and just let him talk to us.
Please bless us all with those dulcet tones. So anything that involves him more, like I'm excited about. But
yeah.
I mean, it did make me just kind of cringe and go, ooh, I don't know. I wish you'd said that a little bit.
I mean, I understand your point of view, and I hadn't about what you are seeing that would give people pause. I had not thought about the people that would be like, oh, but his arm, that's clearly this means he doesn't have the arm. I would remind you his first year as a starter at Alabama, he played with Jamison Williams, who is faster than Xavier Legette is, and he did a really good job. I think this is as mean as a sweet young man like Bryce Young can be to his teammates. It's nice to see somebody get open.
I mean, that's kind of a little bit how I took it too, was like the nicest way for him to be like, wow, when I'm under siege after 1.5 seconds in the pocket now, someone's open. I'm not used to this. To be fair though, that's not necessarily throwing anybody under the bus. Like Xavier's probably already faster than, I mean, who would he not, maybe Mingo?
Maybe Mingo, but do we believe Mingo can combine catching the ball with running? I have no reason to believe he can do it consistently.
I don't have any proof of that yet.
I was about to say,
I imagine it sometimes.
Yeah, no reason to believe it's not a mistake when it does happen.
It seems cool, but
yeah. Did you see the one thing that really got my not blood boiling like angry, but like got the anxiety kicked in is David Newton's first note after the first full week of minicamp was some protection problems along the offensive line. It's like, didn't we just spend a shit ton of money to make sure you're not writing that sentence?
Yeah, but didn't you and I say all freaking offseason that like that wasn't going to be sufficient because you have a left tackle problem?
Yeah.
Or at the very least, you have a left tackle problem that you need, like a lack of insurance problem that you need a backup plan for. Like,
or I mean, what you went out and signed was a guy whose career has been insurance. Like, there's no reason to think that guy that they signed that's a tackle is capable of, like, in the 6th or 7th year of his career, finally breaking through to be a starter. That's just not the way it works in the NFL.
I'm concerned. Like, I've seen some quotes from Icky in the offseason about like how he knows he didn't play well. And I'm sure he does. Like, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he would like to get back to more of the way he was playing in his rookie year. But then that just brings me back to all the knocks on him, even back then, which were that he's more of a run blocking guy and yada, yada, yada. And I'm just sitting here like, I don't know, because it's such an important position. Like, the rest of your line could be great, but if you have a turnstile at that spot, or I mean, a turnstile actually, it would be.
I was about to say, you've got to at least pause with a turnstile.
Yes, that's the thing. Like, no one was even it was like a ghost,
right?
A ghost, just going right through the non-existent left tackle, the ghost
ghost tackle. Should we start working on the script now?
I mean, I could think of all like some of the shittiest Panthers left tackles that have been around, because there have been a list, man. And
this would be like the exact opposite of Angels in the Outfield, where instead of ethereal beings coming to help and save a young boy's faith in his father and his favorite baseball team, it is just demons tripping.
Yeah, and they look like a real football player the whole time, right? So everyone thinks they're real, and in practice they'll seem real, but in the games they become and then people just pass right through them.
Yeah, and that's when we have to think back and realize only the quarterback was talking to them the whole time, and he could just see dead people.
Right, and for a while they can't figure it out. Yeah, this is my movie premise. They're like, "What's going on?" Like, and they can touch him like not during games, but then finally someone in the game was like, "Oh my, I really just went right through him and like not in a figure of speech way."
Yeah,
because that's the thing. If a defensive player tells you that, like, "Wow, I went right through that guy," you're like, "Yeah, you did," and it's like, "No, like,
no, really, I went through the guy." Yeah. All right, be sure and like and subscribe to the show wherever it is you are enjoying This Team Is Killing Us, whether it is on the OG Triangle Media YouTube page or wherever it is you get your podcast. Rate, review, that is really important. That helps more people find the show. And, of course, leave those stars. We would prefer 5. I'm not going to be bossy like the Joes are, though. You do whatever feels right for you. What I am going to tell you to do is buy your tickets now for the Sports Podcast Festival. That happens on August the 24th down at the Rialto Theater, presented by our friends at Breeze Through, Ovius and Giglio, Hand in the Dirt, and the Shutdown full cast. And Lauren and I will be on stage all night long. I had breakfast while I was out in Nashville with Ryan Nanny, who was very excited to get to spend some time with you.
That made me. I always like it when like friends. I don't know. I always get. I'm like, oh, I know them. I love that they're having. I don't know.
I mean, listen. So I went to Nashville for something for my sister, and I told Ryan, why don't we get together for breakfast before I leave? Before that, Home Field, who is providing the official hoodie for the Sports Podcast Festival, invited me up to Indianapolis for a show for them. Holly Anderson wanted to talk about my relationship with Lauren Brownlow. So there is just some real excitement in the Shutdown full cast universe for Lauren Brownlow being at the Sports Podcast Festival.
Don't say that. I love those guys. I'm going to be a dork about it too. I was going to say you should give us 5 stars or else you don't support women.
It's
because
true.
There are a lot of people nowadays that like to tell people what it means to support women's sports and women in sports. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that and just say it as if it's fact.
And if you are watching on the video and you are not giving us 5 stars, you can see it's because you do not support the LGBTQ community. Certainly not as much as Lauren, who is rocking both a t-shirt and a watch band today.
Well, I always rock the watch band. But
I thought so. I just wasn't positive on it.
I understand how cameras work. I do.
There you go.
Yeah, and if you don't give us 5 stars on video, you have internalized misogyny.
It's true. It's true. All right, Lauren, let's talk about, boy, I have no reason to say this, but transitions are what they are. A man that looks very much like internalized misogyny, although we have no reason to think that that is who he is as a person. Dave Canales really does. How
dare you?
Listen, I'm just saying he looks like his dad bought him a jet ski and he doesn't have to listen to you. Right?
I mean,
listen, he's got a face that says his dad is going to get Eric Taylor fired as the coach of the Panthers and install his own head coach next season.
In my imagination, he's the guy that when he hears problematic language, he's like, whoa, guys.
Yeah.
Listen, we don't talk like that around here.
Or when someone offers him a drink, he says, I promised my dad I wouldn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, that probably does happen, to be fair, considering. But I'm just saying, like, let me tell you. I, in my mind anyway, where this all lives, you're probably more right than me, but just let me have this until I'm proven otherwise. Okay.
Oh, so we believe
I view him as an ally,
okay. All right. I think
a hot ally.
There the same person. You just find it more endearing than I do.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's just like, I see what you're talking about with like the, but I've also been watching, I think I told you, I know I've told you post podcast, I rewatched. Well, I had never seen 90210. And then I watched the reboot, and it just, whether it's the original or the reboot, it just reminds me of like the hot guy that blows into town for a few weeks and like, he seems like a nice guy. And sometimes he actually is a nice guy, but he just like has to move away or something,
Right.
or has some whatever, or he has like something going on at home where you learn an important social lesson, or
Sure.
sometimes he's actually just a jerk and you don't, that's the mysteries you get to find out. But sometimes they're nice. I'm just saying.
Listen, I want to make this very clear to everybody. I am a fan of Dave. I am rooting for him to turn our team around. I'm just telling you what his face looks like. That is
I get
all
it.
I'm
You're
doing.
not wrong.
Yeah. All right. So here's my question for you on Dave Canales. And we talked about this a little bit last week until we went off the rails debating, is he too handsome to trust? What is more important this year? Year one of Canales or year two of Bryce? Because they're going to be linked to each other in a big, big way.
I mean, I still think it's probably like who's it more important to be successful? Like
if we look back 5 or 6 years from now and are talking about the state of the Panthers, is it going to be this started with Bryce's second year or this started with Dave's first year?
I think it's a bigger year for Bryce at this point because like Canales comes in here really like. I'm not saying Canales' stock will never be higher. Obviously, if he manages to find success in this, what has become a cesspool out here, like of course his stock will skyrocket. So obviously, like he has nowhere to go but up. But like Bryce at this point really needs a win, and like now because people are super impatient with quarterbacks, somewhat understandably. I mean, that's just how the league works nowadays. Like if you're not performing as a draft pick, they're going to move on from you. I mean,
I tend to think that, so I agree with you on the overall point. They're going to be done with Bryce after this year.
Like not literally maybe, but like
for they're going to be done thinking that there's some sort of turnaround coming with Bryce if we don't see roots of it this year. But I do think so much of that is on the rapport between him and Canales that I think year one of Dave Canales is a bigger deal to this team than year two of Bryce, only because you know, we kind of saw just how bad it can get. It has to be better this year for Bryce Young. It's hard to imagine it being any worse.
Don't say that.
Please. I know. You are worried about the Panthers in him. I'm hoping the spirit of Nick Saban will rise up and do something great.
Listen, all I'm saying is like every time I say, well, it can't get worse, right?
Right.
That's all. It's like a challenge to them.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, can't it?
Do you realize that there are no former head coaches on Dave's active day-to-day staff?
I honestly, for me, I don't hate that at all.
Do you I don't mind a brand new head coach one bit. I do want someone on the staff that understands just the schedule and the day-to-day duties of being a head coach. To be able, someone he can lead on, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that in the notes that, you know, and Dom Capers is still there at least, so that's something.
And so is Jim Caldwell too.
Yeah, which I like both of those as having on in advisory roles, but at the same time, it's also like neither has been especially Dom hasn't been a head coach in how long now, so it's not like he has a big idea about like the day to day. But I mean, you know, a lot of these guys have been around various franchises too. And like, it is a young-ish team, but like, I kind of like the idea of like younger, fresher staff looking at things with new eyes and not kind of beholden to what every other NFL team does, because you know how this league can be. It's so copycat and the same set of, you know, kind of the way people do things, it doesn't work for everybody. And so I understand what you're saying. You wouldn't mind having more of that presence on the staff of like someone who can help stabilize when maybe there's things go awry or like things are new. But at the same time, if we're going to err in one direction or the other, I would personally, because we get so tired of the same retreads in coordinator spots and, you know, and all of, I would, if I'm choosing a direction to go in, I'd rather go in the let's blow it up and try something completely new direction.
I mean, and it's very possible too that there just aren't a lot of people that Dave has that kind of trust in to let him learn on his own, right? That teaching him the day-to-day X and O of being a head coach would not become an overbearing kind of thing. I mean, it's not like his mentor in this space is coming back to, you know, be a coordinator, right? I mean, Pete Carroll is happily exploring the truth behind 9/11 at this point. He's not interested in day-to-day NFL work.
He's probably moved on to something like chemtrails, or I don't know. Is that even still a thing people talk about?
I mean, I think it is, and I believe he is on the record of being very curious about chemtrails.
Well, why wouldn't he be? Like, that kind of fits right in. I'm not surprised. I'd be more surprised if he were like, oh, that's clearly both.
That's ridiculous.
It's like, oh, that is? Okay.
All right. I want to end today's show by introducing you to another new Panther, Lauren, because I don't know if we're going to love him as much as Xavier Legette, but A'Shawn Robinson, who has looked 59 years old since he was 5.
I love this.
Is now a defensive lineman for the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have been doing this series on social media called The Blueprints, where they are just less than 1 minute long videos talking to the new players on the team about how they view being a Carolina Panther. I want to play you the audio from A'Shawn Robinson's segment.
Aggressive, angry. We ain't friends on that line. I'm going to do everything I can to mess you up. I'm here to hurt people's hearts, hurt people's feelings. I like fighting. I like that. In the D-line, you're hitting every play, so it's like a fight every play. As a competitor, you want those things on you. You know why? Your brothers have your back. Your brothers are willing to work for you. They're willing to die for you. They're willing to do anything out there for you.
Iron sharpen iron. Let's get better.
We're here to just, can I cuss? My whole mindset.
A'Shawn Robinson, my whole mindset is fuck shit up.
My favorite part too was because it gave me Ritz and Buckner vibes in the beginning when he said like, I'm out here to hurt people's hearts, and I was like, yes, because he used to say stuff like your soul stinks, which I loved. It's still one of my favorite NFL insults I've ever heard.
Yeah,
like, your soul stinks. It's just wonderful. But I love, how I love defensive linemen.
Absolutely.
And especially ones that will talk a little bit and are nasty. Yes. Yeah. All of that.
Look, I stand, since he was a freshman at Alabama, A'Shawn Robinson has looked like he should be in a white sleeveless undershirt and blue jeans sitting on his front porch yelling at children. He brings big old man energy to everything.
He's been like a meme since then. Like, I remember him on college football internet because it was like, whoa, this guy's how old? What?
Right.
No.
Right. Because even the facial hair fits that description. Lauren, I don't want to overly conspiracy brain is not right. This is more like, I don't want to go overly like marketing brain on this, but
okay.
Do you think Dave Tepper and Dan Morgan realized that characters are going to be really important to rebuilding a love for this team?
No, probably not. I mean, to be fair, like Tepper, I think thought people liked him for a lot longer than was actually true. So he's not exactly an expert on like what people are into. And then, Canales has bigger fish to fry a little bit at this point in time. So like, one thing I always really liked about like Ron Rivera, for instance, it took him a while to get to this place though with the team, was that like he leaned into kind of that more later in his tenure of like even Riverboat Ron, like selling shirts and stuff. He would like have shirts, have them make up shirts for the team. It was partly why following that team was so much fun. The Super Bowl team, is because like they leaned into the fun stuff and had a little, like, who cares? You might as well just have fun. Like, I hate when people say, like, oh, because your team sucks, you're not allowed to have fun. That's when you should be having your most fun.
Absolutely. When you are that far out of it.
They'll be like, wow, they're sitting there laughing. What should they be doing? Crying?
Right.
What do you want them to do?
I have a friend that was on the football team at Alabama. We went to high school together. And I used to watch him get into arguments with grown men about, yeah, man, this doesn't mean to me what it means to you. It's a job. Like, and when I'm not on the field, I don't have to think about my job.
Yeah, it's like people expect them to just be like standing on the sideline, like in mourning when the team is down big. Right. And the announcers do it too. And it's always struck me as like so disingenuous and annoying. Like, yeah, to be fair, like what in a playoff game, like if you're over there yucking it up or eating a hot dog or whatever, I forget who did that. Was that Jay Cutler that did that? I'm not sure.
Probably.
Either way, somebody did that, I think, at one point, which I just thought it was funny. But like, I also understand like why if you're down a lot and you're doing something like that, it's going to rub people the wrong way. But like, it's just one of your regular season games and you're down by a shitload of points and you're not even very good anyway. Like, it's one thing if you're like a really good team and this loss is really disappointing, then you're probably going to see more of that anyway. You're going to see more of that energy. But if you suck already, everybody knows you suck and you're down by like 30, like what the hell? Who cares? Why do we need to see them suffer? I've never understood this. It doesn't make them any more righteous than if they like told a joke and smiled.
Look, last year was the one time that I disagreed with that stance only because like we're not getting the draft pick anyway. Go out and win. Like, who cares what they do at this point? But overall, I'm with you. Like, if we're talking about the difference between 3-14 or 4-13, who cares? Like, you still suck.
Right, but it wouldn't have mattered if they were celebrating or not. Like, that's not why they suck. Because someone made someone smile on a sideline. That's not why this team sucks. Okay? Like, sorry. That's why the Panthers were so dedicated to making each other miserable last year. See, women are
told professionals.
To smile. Right, exactly. But like, women are told to smile more. Men sometimes told to smile less.
Smile less.
You're that's prettier what the patriarchy does. It screws everybody over. Just saying.